So yeah, and then obviously Paul's skipping. He hasn't skipped since 2010, which was our first appearance in the BC provincials. But we went to the provincials 10 years in a row. Paul played third for my rink with Dean Jonice and Jay Wakefield. We lost the provincial final twice. So he might not be a name that's super familiar to people, both because you may not know it and because it's hard to pronounce. Everyone's always saying, "Oh, Cseke." So anyway, it's Cseke. He's a great player, and it's a fun little BC team that we're kind of hoping will make some noise at provincials if and when those happen. So
I really wanted to go with Cseke, to be honest, but
I mean, I wish it was. That would fit his personality quite well, but he decided he wanted to get back into skipping this year. We all kind of took a step back last year. We played with Dean Jonice for 4 years, and we all sort of took a step back. And this year, Paul really wanted to get back to skipping, and we all kind of thought that was a good spot for him. We think he's ready for it, and as we say, they've been playing great so far. 2-1 in the event with a nice win over Tyler Tardy, and they've got this first end set up decently well here, Al.
Yeah, for sure. They're certainly not backing away or backing down whatsoever. They've got rocks in play. They've got them buried. And, Mark Kennedy's going to have to make something real good here in order to put Jacobs in position to get a crooked number here in the first end with Hammer.
Yeah, no question. And it's been, I think obviously the teams played well. I know I was talking with Ryan Harnden last night and this morning. I think they felt like they ran into two really hot teams yesterday in Tardy and Howard. And Mark just missing the roll there. EJ wishing there was a little bit more to sweep there. But I know that as I said, talking to Ryan Harnden yesterday, he had mentioned that they felt like Tardy and Howard just had really good games against them. They weren't unhappy with the way they played. They just thought that those two teams played great and outplayed them, but just in a minor way. And so obviously getting that win this morning against Jason Montgomery and hopefully continuing that streak on is what they're hoping to do. And I know too, and this has been a concern for a lot of curling teams this year, Al. I know that for Team Jacobs, getting ice has not been easy. And I know that's something that Ryan was talking with me about last night, just saying that, they kind of wish that maybe they were getting on the ice a little bit more. So.
Well, now here's a situation that a lot of younger teams might have been scared by, but it's looking awfully good for Jacobs here all of a sudden, isn't it, John? You've got Red Rocks out in front and a real good chance at a double here and buried, and all of a sudden this end turns around. But that's that kind of veteran patience that a team like Team Jacobs can show.
Well, absolutely. And I think the thing with Team Jacobs and that we see with a lot of the top teams these days is they hit so well, especially at the second and third position. So you never mind being a little bit more on the aggressive side because you have faith that if things go a bit sideways, your second and your third can kind of bail you out. And certainly Mark Kennedy, one of the finest throwers in the game, someone that a lot of people would consider one of the best to ever play, is you just feel like, okay, at any point we could turn this around. We can keep being aggressive. And looks like they're not playing a ton of weight here. It looks like almost more of a control shot. Probably the roll a little bit more important than the double here, Al. Ooh, and over a little bit.
That hangs on onto the rings, though. That the one over on the left might be on, so you never know if that will come back and play a role in this end. But that definitely over curled, and Mark's kind of looking at it like, what just happened?
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the one thing that does happen when you get into a situation like this, where you're playing very aggressively early on in a game in the first end. You just don't have a chance to see what every turn is doing. And especially when you bring the weight down like that, you bring the ice into play. And so that looked like a sort of control, maybe a heavy board shot there from Mark. And clearly it just curled a lot more than they thought it was going to. And one thing we can also note, the game's obviously being played on an end sheet. So sometimes that can affect how much the rocks curl as well. Sometimes when you're playing this close to the wall, which we can see in our shot here, when you're playing this close to the wall, sometimes the rocks can curl either more to the wall or less to the wall, depending on if the how the ice has been laid. So obviously, as we said, the ice has been really great so far here in Penticton, but that's just a concern in every curling club. And so, yeah, it's just possible that they didn't quite know what that turn was doing yet. And now they find themselves in some trouble. If Paul can get a nice guard up here, Brad's going to be really behind the eight ball as far as just even trying to prevent Cseke from stealing here.
And this is one of those scenarios with the three-man team utilizing Tyrell Griffith as the lead/second, but more importantly, his sweeping ability that he really has honed playing mixed doubles. This is right in his wheelhouse in terms of being able to sweep a stone as a single player.
Oh, no question about it, Al. We were talking about that before we got on air today. And, speaking as someone who is only really great at sweeping from one side of the rock, Tyrell definitely has a lot of experience sweeping from both sides of the rocks. And then, as you say, sweeping as a single sweeper when he plays mixed doubles. So I know in talking to the guys before the event, once we found out that I wasn't going to be able to play, there was discussion, well, do we pick up a fourth player? And it was actually Tyrell who had kind of said, you know what, I think we're probably better off with three, especially with myself sweeping. And, he knows that he's got a lot of experience being the single sweeper. And so, yeah, so I think that's something that a lot of teams are doing more and more. Obviously when we were curling 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and I know you've curled yourself, whenever you saw a team that only had three players, you thought, okay, well, this is free money. You thought, okay, well, geez, they only got three. They're going to be losing a sweeper on every shot. And now, given what we know about sweeping, it's not as much of a disadvantage as it used to be. So big triple coming up here for Brad Jacobs, big triple attempt. But again, one of those situations where even if he makes the triple, Cseke is going to have a chance to bury with his next one.
And I think regardless of the outcome of this shot, Paul and the boys have to be very pleased with the way they've managed this first end.
No question about it. Yep, absolutely. Whoa, whoops. No. Playing my own live stream in the background. I just wanted to see if anyone was commenting in the chat. Forgot to turn the volume down on my phone. The rookie move.
So just the one stone removed.
Yeah. This is a big opportunity here for Cseke in the first end. They're lying first and second shot, but again, there is maybe a bit of a worry that you don't want to give up two. There is that Jacobs rock here in the top 12. So it looked like Paul was sort of indicating that maybe they would want to hit that. And again, this is something we talked about yesterday, Al, when we were commentating the game. Pardon me, a lot of this is dictated by the point in the game you're in, right? So Cseke here would be thrilled to even hold Jacobs to one.
Yep.
And just take out any chance of giving up two. And that's why they would talk about hitting that one in the top 12. If this were later in the game, they know all the spots in the ice and they know that they need a steal or they need points, then you'd play the guard right away. You wouldn't even think about it, which is what they are doing. They have decided to play the guard, but just explaining that's why Cseke at first thought, well, maybe we just hit this and we might give up one, but that's better than potentially giving up two if I don't make the guard. So, but yeah, I think the way those rocks are staggered, it's even if Paul doesn't throw this rock, I think it's a difficult shot for Jacobs to score two. So we'll see what happens here. But again, a great opportunity for Team Cseke without Hammer here in the first.
And a good way to settle the nerves, too, for the team as well. I mean, they're playing against Olympic champions, Brier champions. Obviously, they've played a lot. They're veterans themselves. But anytime you're playing against one of these high-profile teams, you want to get off to a good start. And that one's going to be maybe a little deeper than they would like. And
yeah, you just try not to set up a triple here. But as long as you don't do that, it's not a terrible shot. That's for sure.
I don't... Well,
it's tough to tell.
We don't have the head-on angle. I think that to me
it does
that
look from the angle we have that it's a triple. And given the fact that Brad didn't immediately put the broom down to throw the triple, suggests to me that it's not a triple. But
I think more than anything, they just maybe try and play that hit and roll to get the single. It looks like that's what they're looking at right now, John.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. Well, it's a situation too, where if you play that hit and roll, even if you don't make the perfect roll, you only give up one, right? That's the key here. You never want to give up a steal of more than one. So So I think that's the shot here. Looks like they have enough room to kind of roll behind those two blue stones and count one. But again, as long as you sort of get rid of that one and hit it on the nose, or maybe even get like a small flop to the inside, you're never giving up more than one. I think that's the key here. But it did look like Brad indicated he's only going to play back line on this one. So we'll see what it does. We know that Mark Kennedy's rock earlier in this end curled quite a bit. So big shot here for Jacobs to save hammer and save 1 point here in the first end against Cseke.
Can't read too much into Mark's shot, John. Those left-handers put a little pixie dust on their throws anyways. We all know that.
True.
But like you say, John, the key here is to score one or give up no more than one, like you just said. And I would say that would be a victory for Jacobs based on the way this end went.
No question. Looks close.
Just like that.
Great shot by Jacobs. Unfortunately, Cseke comes a little deep on his guard attempt, gives Brad an out, and he takes it, but still a nice first end for Team Cseke. They managed to hold Jacobs to one with the hammer. The score after one, Team Jacobs 1, Team Cseke 0.
Northern Credit Union, a true partner, sweeping you to financial victory. Visit northerncu.com and swap your bank for something better. Because Northern Credit Union isn't a bank. We're a financial institution.
The difference between a clean tractor and a dirty one can be found in the heart of the person who holds the key. Hey, Mountain. Coyote, we dig dirt.
We're back here in the second end of the Ashley HomeStore Classic in Penticton, BC. We've got our feature game here, Team Brad Jacobs against Team Paul Cseke. We saw a nice first end from the Cseke rink to hold Jacobs to one, a squeaky one, as we might say, Al. A little bit nerve-wracking at times for Team Jacobs, but a slight miss on Czeke's last one allowed Brad to get the 1 point. And you'd think for Jacobs this end, they're just probably going to try and look to get things back on track and exert a little more control over the end now.
Well, if you talked to Ryan and we were seeing what they were saying on social media as well, just not quite sharp yet. And that's to be expected, honestly. I mean, they hadn't played a competitive game coming into this weekend since October 4th. So, obviously muscle memory can carry certain distances. And we were talking about that yesterday, the fact that Brad Jacobs can make such precision draws without having thrown a ton of them, but it's doing that over 8 ends, right? And doing it consistently. And the margin for error just is so small at this level. And you better be in the high 80s if you're going to win games at this level.
Oh, for sure. And I think, over the last few years, curling has, a lot of people talk about it, but it's turned into a sport where the elite continue to separate themselves from the tier below them. Certainly curling used to have an any given Sunday mentality where you sort of felt like as long as you played a decent amount, you could beat any team at any time. And the elite teams are making that gap wider and wider every year. And a lot of that is just predicated on the amount of work that they're able to put in. And a lot of the teams these days, a lot of the top teams are on the ice. They're throwing every day. The days they're not throwing, they're working out. It's inching closer and closer to being a professional sport all the time. And obviously we know a lot about Team Jacobs and how fit they are and how committed they are to being in the gym and being on the practice ice. And so for them they're really just out of their whole routine this year with COVID, right? When you're used to being able to throw every day, and we know Brad has been involved with the Sioux Curling Club as manager, and he's there all the time. He can throw whenever he wants. And, it really takes an adjustment, I think. And so to not be on the ice and not be able to do the routines and do the things that you usually do, it really can take you out of the feel. And as we say, that's something that we were told by some of the members of Team Jacobs yesterday, that is just, they're trying to work their way into game shape here.
So it looks like Paul's going to rip the guard to take 2 out of play, if that's can't quite see up there, but I think that was the call that he made.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's tough. Obviously, Team Jacobs will try and split the rings and kind of get that, as they call it, the junior deuce. But that's a tough get in this day and age with the cross house doubles that these guys make.
Oh, for sure. And they don't have hammer either, so it would really just be to split the house to try and force Cseke to 1. But yeah, a bit of an interesting call from Paul here. I'm a little surprised given how sort of messy the first end was. I'm a little surprised that they decided to kind of keep it clean here, especially when maybe you feel like Team Jacobs is starting the game a little slow. You might have wanted to put a little bit more pressure on there, but Jacobs doing, as we said, he's got the 2 options. He could split the house here and hope that it kind of holds until the end of the end to force Cseke into 1, or his other option is to throw the center guard. But then, of course, if you do that, then Cseke could beat you around the center guard. So that's what they're talking here.
I forgot they changed the rule this year that when you score, you don't have last rock the next end. So easy mistake to make.
Yeah, that's one of the popular rule changes that people are really like it a lot. Like, that's a good idea. So Jacobs not afraid to kind of mix it up a little bit here. He's going to throw a center guard.
Just a reminder for people watching the live stream, if you're looking for the scores, you can always go to curlingzone.com. Curlingzone.com, you'll get all the scores all the time from the Ashley Home Furnishings Classic in Penticton.
Absolutely. Great plug, Al. Very true. It's a great website for all your curling score needs. And I know this morning, Al, too, one thing that has kind of gone overlooked a little bit through this whole pandemic when it comes to curling is how many of these teams are committed to live streaming their games. And obviously Jerry Gertz with Curling Zone has been giving a lot of teams a hand, including Team Jacobs. He's the one who's been putting together the live streams for Team Jacobs all weekend. And I know he's helping out a few other teams as well. And then I know Tyler Tardy's doing their own, and a lot of teams are live streaming their games to the point where this morning, Al, you could watch all 6 games of the Ashley HomeStore Classic, which you don't see that too often. You don't even really see that at the Briar, where you could get all 5 sheets at the same time. So it's kind of cool that all these teams are sort of committing to this technology, and as we say, also cool that Jerry has been so willing to share his expertise and help these teams out and get them to a point where they can live stream the games for their fans at home. And I know Team Jacobs has had hundreds of people tuning in, and we do thank you for tuning in, and it's been really a blast to get to cover. So we see Tyrell, or I think Corey, that was Corey Chester's first rock, pardon me, the 2nd/3, Corey Chester, trying to come around the corner guard, comes a little bit high. So now Jacobs there's a couple more rocks in play, but it's still the same idea. If you can count 2, it sort of forces your opponent into taking 1. So he'll just look for Mark Kennedy to draw around these 2 rocks here and get second shot. And Al, it was interesting. You were commenting in the first end about how some of these BC teams might be, a little bit cowed by playing these higher profile teams. And while that's certainly a bit of a factor, they changed the call to a straight peel here. While that might be a bit of a factor, one thing that's been really lucky, good shot by Mark Kennedy there, for us BC teams is that we've always, for most of the time that I've been a competitive curler in BC, we've had at least one high profile tournament in BC. It turns out that competitive curlers like coming here. It's apparently the most beautiful province, which is cool, or at least the warmest anyway. I don't know. I know there are other provinces who might have that claim to most beautiful, but it's certainly quite warm this time of year. And so we are lucky. We used to have the West Coast Classic in Royal City that Brent Pierce ran. And now obviously we have the Penticton, the Ashley HomeStore Classic run by Matt Tolley and the great folks at the Penticton Curling Club. And so that's one thing that's always been really great for the BC teams is that While yes, there's always a little bit of a feel of, ooh, we're playing an Olympic champion, we're playing a Brier champion. A lot of us have been pretty lucky over the years to be playing in some of these higher profile tournaments where we get that experience against the top teams, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, there's just no substitute for that, is there, John? In terms of, I mean, you can practice as much as you want, you can play head to head against your provincial rivals as much as you want, but you got to broaden your horizons, and that's been proven time and time again. That you got to get out there and you got to commit to playing these top teams, and that's where the Penticton event, like you said, is such a great opportunity to kind of test and see where you're at, because that's really what it's about. You got to face live bullets to see what you need to improve.
Yeah, no question about it. So we've got kind of an interesting. This is a tough little tricky shot for Mark Kennedy, but he makes it no problem.
Wow.
Corey Chester just missing the roll for shot there, and also just missing getting behind the guard, kind of caught in between two there. But Mark making a fine shot around that guard, and now it looks like Czeke's. This is kind of one of those either or shots. Looks like a pretty flat double, but you either you maybe get the double or at least poke the red further out into the 12-foot, or you roll over and sit on top of it. Either result would be positive here for Corey Chester.
Yeah, it's with the positioning of the guards and the positioning of the stones in the ring. It's pretty good position for the Cseke team.
Yep. Unfortunately, that one overcurled a little bit. That's a few rocks we've now seen on the center line that have overcurled a little bit more than the teams were expecting. We've seen it now from both Team Jacobs and Team Cseke. So that might be something that gets adjusted. It looked like Corey threw quite a bit of weight there, and it still curled. So Team Jacobs, though, here is going to feel pretty good about their opportunity to hold Cseke to one. The only risk here is you just don't want to leave a situation where Cseke can either make a hit and roll to a freeze or make a hit and roll behind a guard. So Brad will want to probably just either nose this or move a shade to the left as you're looking at it to prevent either of those situations from happening.
Yeah, that was an opportunity lost there for Cseke this last stone. That was a chance to build the deuce right there and got away from them. So as you say, now advantage Jacobs.
Yeah, no question about it. So we'll see where this one ends up. But I think for Brad, as we say, just trying to get it into a position where it's not going to be affected by a potential Cseke hit and roll. So that's pretty much exactly what we said, right on the nose. Cseke will have an opportunity to hit and roll behind this guard, but the guard is quite high. So that's why you can see he's sort of ignoring that. He probably feels, we've seen the rocks curl a ton off the center line. He likely feels that even if he makes a hit and roll behind that guard, Jacobs would have the opportunity to get at it. So he's going to try for the hit and roll here. Similar shot to what Corey Chester just played, except there's no double here. So this is just strictly a hit and roll in front of that Jacobs counter in the back, and hope for the best. One thing that's working in Czeke's favor here is you're not really too worried about the steal. The best Jacobs is going to do is be able to get maybe two behind cover, but I don't believe it's going to, it'll leave the whole 4 foot open for Paul to draw. So you're not too stressed out here, but obviously if you can make a hit and roll, that's a chance for a deuce for Cseke.
See Tyrell Griffith sliding by there as he's preparing to sweep. He's got one of those great community fundraiser masks on, the Curling Cares mask. You can get those as a fundraiser at thecommunityfundraiser.com. They're a great, a wonderful mask and for a great cause as well.
Great plug, Al. Good notice. Good eye. I didn't notice that exactly. So,
well, we can thank Ty's Twitter account that alerted me to that.
Nice. That's the research we've come to know and love from Curling Canada's media attaché.
That's right.
Can't get that title without knowing a few things, I believe. So Jacobs here just has an open hit. Really no risk here. The only thing that Jacobs might want to do is roll a little bit to the right as you're looking at it, just to prevent Cseke from having a potential blank double opportunity. It's unlikely that Cseke would try for that, but that's something that if you're going to massage this shot into the right spot, you'd want to roll to the right a little bit in order to give some separations between those two stones. So that's just fine there. So again, Cseke would have the potential option of trying a blank here if he wanted to. You try a slash double on the two reds and your shooter would roll out to the right side of the house, but it's an unnecessary risk, especially when you've just had a great first end against Jacobs where you held them to one without hammer. This end also, they had their opportunities, just never quite got going. So the key here just to pick up one and keep things even heading into the third. So just an open hit. I would imagine that, Paul will play some sort of board up or control weight here and hope to get his one.
You say Paul is making the adjustment to skipping this year. That is a big adjustment, but I think he skipped for quite a bit in his younger days. Did he not?
He did. He was off and on as a skip, Al. Yeah, he when he went to the Canadian Juniors, he was the third on the team. But he skipped for a couple years in junior before that, and then he skipped for his first 2 years in men's, and then moved into he played second and third variously. So he does have some experience skipping, and he's certainly not afraid of it, and he welcomes the challenge as he makes a nice open hit there to knot the game at one. You're watching Team Jacobs against Team Cseke here in Penticton. We're going to head to the break, and we'll come back with end number 3 right after this.
Coyote may not be a household name, but we are a land name, and a work name, and a family name. And those are all the names we'll ever need. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Okay, week 4, day 1. Today is a full body weight workout. I've enlisted the help of my daughter Aubrey. So let's put her to work.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the coverage of the Ashley HomeStore Classic from Penticton, BC, here on the Team Brad Jacobs Facebook page. I'm John Cullen. I'm here with Al Cameron. It's been a great game so far, both teams scoring 1 with the hammer to leave us tied 1-1 heading into the third end. And you might have enjoyed that clip there during the break. That was some highlights from earlier in COVID. We're talking about these teams having to get creative to get their workouts in, and that was Mark working out with his daughter Aubrey. It was pretty fun. Him and his wife Nicole and their other daughter Brecken, they're all athletes. Mark obviously competes in curling, and his 2 daughters are very competitive in cheer and in running, and his wife is a cheer coach as well. And so they put together a fun little kind of workout package over the summer, and you can find that on the Team Jacobs Facebook page. You can also find it on the Kennedys Instagram. They have a family Instagram account at the Canadian Kennedys, so you can check that out and get all those kind of fun updates on Mark's life, on how his daughters are doing in sports. They're both awesome athletes, and to get some workouts that you can do at home if you want to work out like the pros. And nice shot there by Ryan Harnden. Cseke was completely buried behind that center guard to start the end, and he's able to just come around with backline weight and just move it out from behind the guard. A nice way to start the end, Al.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just a matter, I think, for Team Jacobs that they need to string an 8-shot end together to really kind of get on a roll. And I think they showed some signs of that this morning in their win over West Montgomery. I think they want to it's the consistency that they've talked about. And that's a real solid start for them in this end. And I think just once they get that consistency goes, the confidence flows from that. And we'll see that Team Jacobs that we all know and what they're capable of.
For sure. It was something we saw yesterday too when they played Team Tardy. I think overall you'd say they had a good game, but Tardy just was that little bit sharper. And I think it comes exactly down to what you're saying, Al. They made a ton of shots, but just weren't quite on the right side of the inch on some big shots, and just weren't putting together those kind of ends where you go, okay, yeah, we made all 8 of our shots and we feel good about it. So that's certainly something they'll look to do here against Cseke. And like you said, they got a good start this morning against Jason Montgomery.
Oh my God.
Like
West Montgomery being the that's an Edmonton media personality from way back in the day. Holy smokes. That's the Alberta roots there.
He's curling somewhere, Al.
He sure is.
But it's not here in Penticton. So
no, I think Mark Kennedy's family, Nicole, I'm sure, and the crew back in Edmonton, they'd know who I was talking about when I mentioned.
Okay. Well, there you go. That was just a shout out for the Alberta folks who are watching this game.
But a little bit of an opportunity lost there for Team Jacobs. They got the half shot from Ty Griffith on his third shot, and Jacobs could not follow it up with a little bit of a dagger to kind of put the pressure on.
Yeah, and again, just goes back to what we were saying. Just there was an opportunity there and a discussion too, right? If you're Brad, they could have just warped around the center guard. They didn't have to hit that one. Brad had kind of debated for a second and thought, okay, you know what? I trust that EJ is going to make this hit and roll. And then when he doesn't make it, then you go, oh, geez, maybe we should have drew, because now Corey Chester has a chance to get himself buried behind this center guard. And it looks pretty good. Tyrell's really sweeping on the curl side of the rock, trying to get it to move. But overall, decent shot from Chester. I would imagine that Brad will call the run back for Mark here. Short little double, and we might end up with another fairly open end once these rocks come to rest. Oh, sorry, EJ's still throwing. With Cseke only having 3 people, it's hard to keep track of where we are in Team Jacobs lineup. But EJ, this is EJ's second shot of the end. And that's some heat that EJ's throwing, and makes that, leaves the rock there. So Cseke will have the chance to come around it. But again, this is the type of thing that teams are so good at hitting these days. That's why they would have EJ stick there rather than kind of clear everything out of the way and maybe just play a bit of an open end. They want EJ to leave that one in the center, because they know that even if Cseke makes a perfect come around here, they got Mark Kennedy throwing next, and they could have a straight on run back and lie one buried. So nice shot from EJ. And this will be another attempt for Corey Chester to try and get it buried behind that center guard.
Yeah, that center guard is an asset, no question, for Team Jacobs. And I could 99% say it's going to come into play. And this rock's going to have to hit the brakes in a hurry, I think.
Yeah. It's really going to come into play now. That's for sure.
There's one of the COVID return to play guideline aspects of the game that we're seeing, is that Brad Jacobs could not get up and sweep. Not that rock needed any sweeping, but that is one of the guidelines in place to maintain some distancing between opponents.
Yeah, and I'm never really too sure if that's a COVID guideline or if that's the Skips Union putting together and telling the World Curling Federation, like, you know what, I'm a little bit tired of sweeping behind the tee line. Maybe we can. Is there something we can do about that? Yeah, it's a COVID thing. That's why I don't want to sweep behind the tee line.
Not going to lie, that was one of the first suggestions that came in from Skips when we were asking around to put these guidelines together. Nobody was saying distancing on the hog line. Nobody was saying mask. It was all Skips don't need to sweep.
Yeah, we don't need to get the Skips sweeping. Come on. Yeah. No question. That's so good.
So now suddenly the advantage needle pointing firmly at Team Jacobs. 2 guards up there, both their color and rock in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking solid here. And you can see they choose to go around the corner guard instead of the center. This is a good way to stack up 2 points here. It brings all the play away from the center. Because unfortunately, as much as Cseke would want to go around that center guard now with having that Jacobs rock in play, you never want to try and bring 3 into play. So one lucky part here is that Mark did go a little deep, so Cseke can, hopefully come down to it, and we could see a little bit of a freeze game here over the last few shots of this end.
Got to make it. That's that'll turn the end around if they can make this shot.
Absolutely. Huge shot here for Corey Chester, and he just threw it through the house. So surely that's weighing on his mind a little bit when he comes up to throw this one. And this one looks a little hot too.
Then he get to the face, though, it looks like. Pretty good.
Yep, good shot from Chester. Now, I don't know if Jacobs will have the chance. He got a little bit of separation between those two stones. So
I was saying.
Yeah, I wonder if Jacobs would have a chance here to come down. We don't have a perfect angle. It does look like it's fully buried, and Jacobs has just called for Mark to draw down to it. Unfortunately, with the way that the rocks are staggered for Team Cseke, if Mark can freeze this one right on the face, it looks like it's possible to get rid of that blue stone without touching their one in the back 12. So we'll see what happens, though. Mark does have to get it right on the face perfectly in order for that to happen, and this one looks like it needs to curl quite a bit. You can see they've got EJ Harden on the rock, and looks maybe a little heavy too. Yeah, just maybe a consequence of throwing a little bit too much weight there. And that rock never really finds its break point. And it's another small mistake from Team Jacobs. And that's going to allow Cseke to have a shot at the center guard. Looks like their shot, the blue rock, the blue Cseke rock looks to be shot. That's what they're looking at. But if it is, you would imagine that Cseke will likely go behind the center guard and ignore that over there. And that is what he is indicating. Yeah, when you don't have the hammer, you always prefer the play to be more in the center as opposed to the corners. So not surprising that Cseke is looking at that, although it seems like he wants to call it sort of back button here. Not quite sure why.
Just keep that run back as long as possible, I guess. And I suppose back button, if they make the freeze, it's going to be tough for Jacobs to generate a second point on Skip's rocks. But
yep, that's likely what Cseke is thinking here. And I think too, maybe he's a little worried that if they're sort of right on the button, it maybe leaves a run double for Jacobs as well. So some potential respect for the big shot ability of Brad Jacobs and the big weight ability of Brad Jacobs here. But looks like the call is, as we say, to put the rock in the back 4 buried, so that if Brad decides to run the middle one, it's a bit of a further run back and it doesn't put him right on the lid if he makes it. And if he decides to freeze, then it would give Paul Cseke the chance to freeze down on top of it and hold Jacobs to 1. So we'll see where he ends up. Really, as long as it's buried, any shot's a pretty good shot. You're still forcing Brad into making something. So that's really the key here, just trying to get as buried as you can. Tyrell seems to indicate it's a little bit heavy.
Just an absolute world-class player. He's proven that time and time again over his career. So,
yeah, absolutely.
He says it's heavy. You listen.
For sure.
Looks like he judged that pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much exactly where Paul wanted to put it. So not a big worry there. And we get a nice view of Tyrell's hoodie.
Yeah.
It's gray, Al. I can report his hoodie is gray.
To be a poly cotton blend of some sort.
Yeah, a heather. It looks like a heather gray hoodie on Tyrell there. While we're waiting for Team Jacobs to decide on their shot here, we should note that we've seen a little bit from their sponsors so far in some of these ads. Kingsville Brewery, one of their new sponsors this year, and Brad Jacobs and the team just posted on their Instagram this morning that they're partnering up a little Movember deal with Kingsville Brewery. It's stout season, and they want to see your stout stash. So if you share a photo of your beer mustache, or you share the photo of the 4 members of Team Jacobs with their beer mustache on Instagram, and use the hashtags Stout Season and Stout Stash, and you follow and tag Kingsville Brewery, they're giving away free beer all month. So
wait a minute.
Yeah, free beer from Kingsville Brewery, new sponsor. And you can also check out, it looks like the mustache filter that Mark Kennedy used included a Post Malone-esque eyebrow tattoo. So be sure to check that out on the Team Brad Jacobs Instagram page and share for some free beer. We love free beer, don't we, Al?
Yeah.
So here we go. Brad Jacobs is about to throw his first of the third end with hammer, facing 2 Team Cseke counters. And he's going to try and draw here, I believe. Paul Cseke throwing his first just to the back button on purpose. So Jacob's just going to try and come right in front of that. And there we go. We got a nice picture of the stash, and we can see Mark's beautiful eyebrow tattoos there. He's looking good. Looking very good.
There would be a teardrop coming out of there too.
Yeah, but Mark hasn't killed anyone in prison, so he's fine. He's staying away from the
or anywhere else. To be clear,
yes, I know, but that's that was referencing the teardrop tattoo.
Yes, of course.
But yes, but we digress. Brad looks like he might be a little heavy here. Just clicks off, and looks like Cseke will have an opportunity here to potentially hit and lie 3 with 2 of them buried. Our video is frozen here, so we're not sure exactly where it ended up, but I feel pretty confident that's what Paul's going to be calling. There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only thing you'd be thinking about here if you're Paul, well, there's a couple things. The first one is weight. So it's whether you actually want to remove the Brad Jacobs stone in order to sit 3, or whether you just want to draw another one in there. It does look like they're shot, because Tyrell seems to be indicating that they could just draw down there for second shot. So that's the debate, is do you want to move the Jacob stone a little bit? Obviously, you could see Paul was worried that if they do that, then it might give Brad Jacobs a run, and potentially a run double for 2 based on where they leave that red stone. I would imagine they'd try to hit it out of the house if they're going to hit it. The other option is what it seems like they're doing, which is to freeze in that pocket there. And the reason you do that is obviously to avoid making the run back easy for Brad, and and also to make his draw really tough as well. If Paul can put one kind of on the top button here, it eliminates the out turn draw for Brad, and he's likely just going to have to throw a heater at that center guard and hope for the best. So looks like they're just going to try and come down, freeze on this one. If you chisel that red rock a bit, that's not too bad either, but they want to keep that red rock that Jacobs just threw in the 4-foot for some protection against a run back.
Yeah, lots of good options here available too. So there's some opportunities here in play for a steal 1, steal 2 even. They can get this into a good position, and there's some audibles they can call as well, depending on the weight and line.
Absolutely. But Tyrell hasn't touched it. I think it's hanging out a little bit here. So that'll work. It does give Jacobs an out here, in that he's got the out turn draw.
Or is there a double for 2?
I mean, he'll certainly look at it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, we don't have a great angle here, so it's hard to tell where it is behind the guard, but looks like Brad thinks he might have a shot at the double. Certainly what they're talking about. So just a little heavy from Paul. He was trying to just freeze in the pocket and overthrew it a little bit.
The run double, I think, is just off nose, and I think you get them both. But
yeah, the thing with the run double too, Al, is as long as you get rid of one of the blue stones, it's not so bad, right? You get rid of one of them. You just, the only worry you would have is if you run it straight back and you hit the one on the left as we're looking at it, you sort of thin the one on the left, and then you push the blue stone on the button into the red one that's in the back 8. And if you do that, then you'd give up 2.
Boy, aren't you a doomsday guy?
Well, they're not throwing
it. That's what frienders do. No, well, yeah, it's true.
They're not throwing it, so I must be not crazy, But you're right. That is a lead. That is a way the lead looks at it. That's when we come down the ice and we go, wait, so you guys, you're sure, you know? So it looks like Brad just play a simple control hit and roll here to get his one, and another pretty solid end from Team Cseke, in control a lot of the way, capitalizing on a couple misses from Team Jacobs.
Well, that's a thing about Brad Jacobs that I think has evolved in his career too, isn't it? That once upon a time, I think he would have taken on that run double just because, but he also recognizes the value of, you know what, being in the lead is a good thing.
Absolutely. Looks pretty
going
good.
to have the lead.
Yeah, nice shot. So that'll be one for Brad Jacobs, another well-played end for Team Cseke and Team Jacobs both. That's a score of 1 for Team Jacobs, making it 2-1 after the third end. We'll be back with the fourth end here in Penticton, BC, right after these messages.
Northern Credit Union, a true partner, sweeping you to financial victory. Visit northerncu.com and swap your bank for something better. Because Northern Credit Union isn't a bank. We're a financial institution.
Okay. Week 4, day 2. Today is another daily rep challenge, so get out there with the family and have some fun.
We're back here at the Ashley HomeStore Classic in Penticton, BC. We're watching Team Jacobs play Team Cseke here in the fourth game for both of these teams. Team Cseke sitting at 2-1, Team Jacobs at 1-2. And the scoreboard also mirroring those records as Team Jacobs is up 2-1 on Team Cseke with Hammer. And it's been a great game so far, Al. We got to watch a little bit more of the workout footage from the Kennedys during the break, which made me tired. So I'm going to take a little break, and I'll let you recap the scores from the rest of this draw 6 here in Penticton.
Yeah, 6 games on the ice at the Penticton Curling Club in the Ashley HomeStore Classic, presented by New Floors. Big game, 2 BC teams from Victoria. Jason Montgomery, winless at 0-3 so far, taking on Cameron DeJong, a Victoria, and it's a 3-0 lead now for Team DeJong. They got a deuce in the first and 1 in the second. DeJong at 1-1, Montgomery at 0-3. Mike McEwen, you may have heard of him. He's out of Manitoba. He's got a 4-1 lead over Kelowna's Wiley Eden, a big 3 in the third end for Team McEwen. And Team McEwen looking for its second win. They've got a 1-1 record. Wiley Eden out of Kelowna, 0-2. Glenn Howard and Tyler Tardy. Boy, that's a great matchup. A little bit of an age gap between those two skips. Team Howard out of Penticton, Ontario. Tyler Tardy out of Langley. It's a 1-1 tie playing the fourth end with Team Tardy enjoying Last Rock. Glenn Howard with a 2-0 record. Tardy having lost the game this morning. So I believe it's at 2-1 now. And Karsten Sturmey out of Edmonton, out of that great U of A program. He's down 3-1 to Sebastian Robillard out of Maple Ridge. Team Robillard coming in with a 1-1 record. Sturmey at 0-2. And also another big Edmonton team, another big team out of that U of A program. It's Brendan Botcher, 3-time silver medalist at the Tim Hortons Brier. They're in a 1-0 lead over Team Steve Laycock out of Vernon. Botcher at 2-0, Laycock at 2-0. So that is a very, very big game. And of course, our game that you're watching here on the Team Jacobs Facebook page, it is a 2-1 lead for Team Jacobs over Paul Cseke.
Great recap, Al. Just one note: Glenn Howard is at 3-0, so he's feeling comfortable. The standings haven't been updated yet, but he did beat De Jong this morning, so he is up, or he's 3-0 and at the top of this pool, this pool C that both Jacobs and Cseke are in as well. So that's probably a game that both of these teams hope Glenn wins. That will uncomplicate their their playoff pictures. If Howard can go undefeated and these two teams can kind of fight over second. So another good start to the end here from Paul Cseke. We've got 2 Jacobs guards up and 2 Cseke rocks in the house. They do look pretty doubleable for EJ Harnden here. But
wait a minute. Did you just say doubleable?
Doubleable. Yep. I made it up and it is now a word. And
I'm waiting to see how the closed captioning translate that on the Team Jacobs Facebook page. I'm watching closely as we speak.
Good, yeah. If I don't hear Vic Rauter using doubleable at the Brier this year, I'll be very disappointed.
Well, there's a real good shot.
Good shot from EJ, and gets it half buried behind the guard, and just another. It's been a game of kind of small mistakes from both teams so far, and that was sort of another one we saw there, Al, with Tyrell Griffith trying to come around those corner guards and separate the house a little bit for Team Cseke, and he comes just a hair deep, which allows that double from EJ. And it's kind of been a sort of the story of this game so far, Al, for both teams, that both teams have made some great shots and they've looked sharp at various points, but I think it's fair to say neither team has shown their complete game yet, as we could say.
I think that's a fair statement. This is definitely an advantage for Team Jacobs, this setup in terms of the staggered guards up there. Of course, last rock advantage does belong to Team Cseke. So they're going to try and get one in front, buried, and it's not quite buried, I don't think. I think it's accessible for Team Jacobs.
Yeah, it is. It's whether they want to access it. That's the question. Yeah, this is what I would have thought the Jacobs would like as well, as the draw, but seems like they're talking about both. But that Corey Chester rock in the top 12 is sort of acting as another de facto guard for Jacobs.
Sure is.
Play the counterclockwise turn here, Al. Mark Kennedy's in turn. They could be looking pretty good with 2 buried behind cover here. And one thing I've noticed too, Al, and you probably have as well, and this is again going back to us talking about Jacobs not having as much practice time this year and as much game time too. I mean, we're in the middle of November. For a lot of teams, this is their second, maybe third event of the season, whereas in past years, this would be your 7th or 8th event. We do see a lot of conversation between the Jacobs team. Brad seems to be talking a lot to the front end and to Mark, trying to decide what shots to play. And you have to think that that's also part of them not being able to be on the ice as much as they want to be, that they're kind of just trying to, again, work out the kinks throughout the round robin portion of this event.
Yeah, and this is the time of year when that kind of work is typically done. As much as there's money on the line for cash feels and whatnot and CTRS points, this is also about developing for later in the season, and obviously development for the trials, the Tim Hortons Roar of the Rings, because every team in Canada has aspirations of being there, and you've got to take every opportunity to kind of develop your team. And it's more than just throwing rocks and sweeping them. It's about talking. It's about communicating. It's about developing a game plan and sticking to it. And that's what you see good teams do. And that's where these are opportunities for those good teams to kind of work out those game plans, work out those kinks.
Yeah, no question about it. I think we're seeing that, and as you say too, it is also an opportunity for teams to work it out without a time clock. And so, when you're playing in a Brier or you're playing in a trials type of event, the teams are on a time clock and on a strict time clock too, with the introduction of thinking time and all of what we know about that. So, it's time for the teams to kind of work out what they might want to do in a situation where Brad might have to make the calls quite a bit faster. So big shot here coming up from Corey Chester. It seemed like Tyrell Griffith saw an angle here that maybe Paul Cseke didn't see for a potential triple. So they're going to look at that here. That's not a bad shot at all by Chester. I'm surprised he didn't throw a heater. He didn't throw, the cannon that you might have seen a different team play there, but worked out decently well. It kind of puts them in the same position they were before Mark Kennedy's first shot. So pretty much the same call here. Mark's just going to, again, try to tuck a piece buried. And the only thing that's working in Czeke's favor a little bit with potentially Corey's next shot, as opposed to that one, is that blue rock that's in the top 12 might be a little bit more open for a run back situation.
And it took the staggered reds out of play as well in front of the house too. So exactly. that was a positive outcome as well. Just people wondering, this event is three pools. 8 teams will make the playoffs. The 8 best records overall will make the playoffs, and there will be tiebreaker games played if necessary. So that's why a lot of eyes on this game, because it definitely has playoff implications to get into those playoffs, or a tiebreaker at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. Oftentimes when you have events like this where you've got the pool play, especially with 3 pools and 8 teams making the playoffs, it's often a race to 3 wins. Usually you feel pardon me, if you can get to a 3rd win, if you can get to a 3-2 situation, that's probably going to guarantee you a tiebreaker. And with this event using tiebreaker games and not last stone draw or some other tiebreaker situation, teams are just racing to 3 wins. And once they get there, they'll feel confident that they'll have a chance to make the playoffs. So yeah, a big game. This is, if Cseke wins this game, that will get them to that 3-win number with a tough game looming tomorrow morning against Glenn Howard. And for Team Jacobs, they're already at 2 losses. So a 3rd loss here would most likely spell the end of their tournament, despite the fact that they have 1 game remaining. So this is, a huge game for both teams. And we're seeing that here. There's been a lot of great shot making so far. Really close from Corey Chester there on the triple, but unfortunately doesn't quite pan out. And so Jacobs looking pretty solid here. They've got a red in the 4-foot buried behind 2 guards, and they're also counting second shot. So few options here for Brad.
Got to be careful here, though, don't they? I mean, the double will be there. Even if you guard that red shot stone, there will be a path to it through the second red stone that's over at 11 o'clock there. So
yeah, no question. And that's obviously what they're talking about right now too. They don't want to necessarily leave. You can see even Mark's talking about, if we do throw a guard, we have to guard the one that's second shot, which you don't normally see, but it's exactly what you said, Al. If you try to make a guard better on the rock that's in the 4-foot, then you would leave yourself exposed to a double. And then if Cseke were to make the double, they'd be lying 2 completely buried, and you're on the hook for 3. So looks like that's the option they've decided on, is just guarding that rock there. It does leave the rock in the 4-foot exposed. However, it is half buried. So probably the thought from Team Jacobs is, even if they leave that one open, the best that Cseke could do is come down to it and hit and roll out into the open, at which point Jacobs would have a hit back to get behind the guard. So looks like they're just guarding the one, as you say, Al, at 11 o'clock here. And that's they seem like they wanted it fairly tight to the house. You don't want to, again, leave it high and leave an opportunity for Cseke to come around it and make that double. So just a tight guard here.
Yeah, it definitely will force Cseke to play at the half exposed shot stone. Brad's concern that he expressed in the conversation with Mark just now was, well, what happens if Paul plays the hit and roll and sits shot buried behind the two rocks on the left side of the house as we're looking at him here. But I think that's the risk you got to leave. This is the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. The rock in the 4-foot's already half buried anyway, so this rock not curling as much as they wanted to, but they might end up in a situation where they sort of guard both here. It curls enough.
Yeah,
So
it took away the right
you can
side of it.
Yeah, it took away the right side of it for the double, but now you're concerned if you're Jacobs is that you maybe left a bit of a guard there if they decide to play the hit and roll behind. Because again, if that rock was a little bit more to the left as we're looking at it, it's a bit of a tougher roll. The Cseke rock would have further to travel, whereas now they only have to get a minor roll or a big one. I mean, they can now roll anywhere from 2 to 4 feet and be buried and be shot rock. So that's the danger of that Jacobs rock not curling enough. So we'll see. This is a big shot here for Cseke to try and get 2 and gain a bit of an advantage in this game.
Yeah, the guard that Brad threw just now is not really in play on this shot. If it had finished a little closer to the center line, it might have been a factor, but you could drive a Mack truck through that court right there for Cseke. So
I wouldn't recommend it, but you could.
Might be tough on the ice.
Yeah,
might be tough on the ice.
Yeah, exactly. I think they might be a little bit upset with you if you did that, but looks like Paul's playing a sort of control weight here. That's what we see a lot of the top teams play now for these sorts of hits and rolls.
Ty's really got that classic mixed double sleeping style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just kind of like half behind the rock.
Oh.
Well, it's not great, but it could have ended up in a worse position.
Yeah,
it forced Jacobs to make a play on it as shot stone. So he can now hit and roll buried, but it might allow Paul a chance at 1. It'll just depend on where the Jacobs counter ends up here. You'd guess that he would either want to just kind of nose right there or even sit on the corner of his red one, because the draw isn't there. The draw path is very difficult with the rock that Jacobs just threw sitting in the way. So if he noses here, the nose hit would give Paul the chance to come with the counterclockwise turn, the out turn down the middle, and kind of hit and roll in. So the ideal shot for Brad is he makes just kind of a slight roll towards the nose, towards the center line and towards the nose of that rock in the house. And you can see that that's what Mark and EJ are sort of lining up here. EJ is trying to figure out exactly where they want it to roll once it's done hitting this blue stone. So it's again, this has kind of been the story of the game so far, Al. There's been chances for both teams to make shots like this and put a lot of pressure on their opponent, and neither team has really done that so far. So we'll see if Brad can make a big shot here and put a lot of pressure on Paul Cseke with his last.
They like the line, I think. Just
yeah,
a light clean. Now they want to carve it a little bit and see if EJ can get a little more movement out of it. And that's a pretty, I think they would have liked to roll it a little further, like you said, but
well, the risk you run if you roll it, if you so they're kind of in between. You know, I think if you roll it right to the face, that's pretty good. Be hard for Paul to get in there for his 1. But if you roll it a little bit more than it's rolled right now, then it's just an easy nose double.
Yeah.
So they're in a pretty good spot here. Paul doesn't really have an easy nose double here to get rid of both of those and still count for shot. So that's what he's going to be debating here is where exactly can we hit this so that we manage to stay around for the shot stone. And I think probably what you want to do is just sort of just hit this one just off nose so that you don't even necessarily remove the one that's behind it in the 4-foot. You just move it out into the 8-foot or out into the 12-foot and allow your rock to be the counter.
Just tickle it.
Yeah. It's tough to tell because Paul's blocking it, but it almost
Yeah.
looks like maybe they're discussing trying to thin it the other way. I think that might be what they're trying here. It looks like maybe they're throwing the clockwise turn, Paul's in turn, to just shade the top one that's on the center line, kick that into the 8-foot, and then nose right there. I'm just guessing based on where the broom is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, no question about that. Unless they're throwing some kind of control hack kind of thing. But I think your call is probably the one they are going with.
Yeah, it's either that or they're just nosing the one in the middle and giving Jacobs one. Those are the only two options I can see with that broom being where it is. But this looks like quite a bit of weight. So I'm guessing they're trying to thin the one in the middle and stick it for one. Big shot here. Looks like it's got a curl. Ooh, that blue one's there. Ooh, okay, well.
Could have been worse.
Been a worse result, but that's a nice couple of last shots from Team Jacobs. The last 3 or 4 of the end gives them a steal of 1, and that puts them up 3-1 heading into the 4th end break here in Penticton, BC at the Ashley HomeStore Classic. We'll be back with the second half of the game right after this.
What does it mean for the hospital to be able to participate in events like this?
Well, I mean, Team Jacobs is always a great supporter of our hospital. They've been doing their golf tournament for years, donating tens of thousands of dollars, and just being able to help them facilitate something like this, donating masks to our hospital to help keep people safe is incredible.
And we're going to be donating 2,095 masks, which we're extremely proud to be able to contribite to our local community, our local hospital, and give back in a different way. Usually we have our golf tournament every summer where we're donating tens of thousands of dollars to Syria Hospital. And this time we're doing something a little bit different where we really wanted to try to give back in a way that was going to have a real impact based on what we're going through, and to be able to deliver 2,095 masks to Syria Hospital today. We're super excited to be here to be able to do that, and proud of the community that we come from and that we live in, and again, just wanting to give back in any way we can. And so that's what we're here to do today.
All right, we are back here at the Ashley HomeStore Classic in Penticton, BC. This is draw number 6 in the 4th game for these two teams. Might be draw 5. I don't know. I haven't been paying too close of attention to how many draws have been played. But in any case, it's draw 5 or 6, but it is the 4th game for both of these teams. Team Jacobs sitting at 1-2. Team Cseke sitting at 2-1. But right now in this game, Team Jacobs has the lead 3-1. Our faithful stat man, Jerry Gertz, informs me this is draw 5. So somehow these teams have managed to play 4 out of the 5 draws so far. Not sure who drew up that schedule, but I would like to have a word with them. No, I'm just kidding. Team Jacobs up 3-1. Team Cseke does have the hammer. Jacobs just stole a point in the 4th end to take a 2-point lead. And just before we get back into calling the game, just want to talk a little bit about that video we just saw, Al, in the break. That was, for those of you who maybe dipped out or didn't understand exactly what was going on, that was a partnership earlier in the pandemic from Coyote. They are Team Jacobs, one of their presenting sponsors. It was Team Jacobs and Coyote donating 2,095 masks to a hospital in Sault Ste. Marie to help out with the pandemic. So pretty cool move by both Team Jacobs and by Coyote. And that's the type of sponsorship partnership that we love to see in curling. Don't we, Al?
100%. I mean, and we talked about it yesterday. The fact that these teams are able to play despite these tough times with the pandemic, it's a real shout out to all the sponsors. Obviously, Team Jacobs has a great portfolio with and great support throughout that Northern Ontario region, but on a national basis, But that's a constant theme, I think, that has to be acknowledged this season is please go out and support those sponsors, those team sponsors, because without them, these teams are sitting at home and not playing and not entertaining all you great curling fans out there.
Yeah, no question. Team Jacobs presented this year by Coyote, by Northern Credit Union, by Kingsville Brewery, and by Nobis. So be sure to check out those businesses. I've checked out Nobis a few times. I want a jacket. I'm not going to lie. They got some pretty nice jackets, Al, but I'm not in the Team Jacobs tax bracket. I got to work my way up. I've got to work my way up to one of those beauties, but I'm trying my best. But no, they're
you got to have aspirations, kid.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think. Exactly right. So no, it is obviously great to see it. And it's really cool to see when companies want to work with their teams as well. It's not just simply hey, we're going to give you some money. You guys go out there and curl and have fun and, whatever happens. It's really awesome to see these companies actively wanting to get involved with these teams, make a difference in their communities. And that's clearly something that's important to Team Jacobs. And they've shown that throughout the years. So pretty awesome stuff. And we have a pretty awesome start to this end as Tyrell Griffith makes an excellent freeze on that Ryan Harnden stone in the 4-foot there. So looks like we might have a little bit more action this end than we've had in the past few that have been pretty open through the first few stones of the end, Al.
Well, and, I think there's a great deal of confidence that Team Jacobs can take out of that last end, getting back on the steel train. I think it was notable in both their games yesterday that they lost. They did not steal any ends, and their win against Jason Montgomery, they did have a couple big steals, and that's when this team's at its best and putting rocks in good places is when they're stealing points, and that was a big steal for them in this game, and I think a big opportunity to kind of get that momentum that we've talked about.
No question. Well, and it's the type of steal that is a momentum building steal too. It's not we didn't have a great end, but our opponent missed, and so we got a steal. It was putting pressure on Corey Chester and on Paul Cseke, giving them difficult shots and forcing misses. Not all steals are created equal. So when you're playing at this level and you can generate an end that sort of forces a steal, you feel even better about it than you do if it kind of just gets handed to you. So certainly a great situation for Team Jacobs last end and now up to gaining a bit of confidence. But we've got a little bit of a mess here in the 4-foot. So we'll see how this goes.
It's a tasty looking end already.
It is, but we'll see. EJ, we've seen EJ throw the heat a few times this event so far, just in the 2 games that you and I have commentated. And no question, he's going to be looking to throw some heat again here and maybe clear out some of the Team Cseke deadwood there in the 4-foot. Driftwood, deadwood, who knows?
They both apply. But what the key is here is I think these rocks are doubleable for Mark Kennedy.
They are most definitely doubleable.
Not quite.
Well, you can always tell when you see the skip sort of do the old lean back there as the rock comes down the ice field. And so, yeah.
The best I ever saw doing that lean back when he knew a miss was coming was the legendary Paul Gausel.
Oh yeah, well, he'd lay down on the ice. He'd lean back so far, he'd be fully horizontal.
If I can tell you my favorite curling moment ever,
please,
was playing in a charity bonspiel with Paul Gausel, and he realized I was okay because we were playing with a couple of rank beginners, and he couldn't have been more supportive of those beginners. Good try, great, yes, keep it up. You're doing great. And then I missed a shot. And I got the Paul Gausel lean back. Like, are you freaking kidding me? How did you miss that shot? So I felt really good that Paul Gausel had expectations of me.
That's good. I feel happy for you just listening to that story. So that's not.
That was it's tough to beat that.
Yeah, no question. So here's this is a big shot for Corey Chester here. If he can kind of split off this blue rock in the 4-foot, it's going to look pretty good, but that is way over curling. And that's, that's one thing that, again, you start to think about when you get towards the end of a game is when you follow up a big miss with another miss. That's something that you know, you want to try and have that killer instinct. And when you get a full miss, I mean, you know, this Team Jacobs team, when they miss shots, it's very rare you're getting a full miss, as we say. Curling shots are judged out of 5. It's very rare from Team Jacobs you're going to get a 0 out of 5 like you just got from EJ. So, you know, unfortunately for Corey, unable to follow up that 0 with a 5 of his own. You know, they were trying to come in and sort of push that blue rock we see in the top 4 into the 4-foot, but coming up a little short, although the guard is not a terrible situation because it does, as we see, it's forcing a full team discussion from Team Jacobs, trying to decide the best way to get in there now that it's a little bit guarded up anyway. But it comes both ways, because now you've sort of guarded against Team Jacobs, but you've also guarded against yourself. So
yeah, that's the key. Team Jacobs, obviously, their biggest priority would be just to when they up 1 with hammer playing 6, a great position for Jacobs to be in if they can navigate that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this yesterday as well, but with curling switching to the 5 rock rule across all events in the last few years, it's really brought out the scoreboard management. It's something teams were thinking about before, but now it's really being thought about, where having the hammer in the 6th end and sort of being able to control who has the hammer potentially in the last 2 ends is huge. So I do agree with you, Al. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't be too adverse to, wow, that's a really nice shot from Mark Kennedy. That blue rock in the 4-foot starting to look a little bit lonely. But to get back to what we were saying, most definitely it's I don't even remember what I was saying. I was wowed by the big shot, Al. I was wowed by the big shot by Mark Kennedy.
6th end scoreboard management.
Yes, there we go. Exactly. So yes, teams definitely, I don't think Team Jacobs would be against stealing here. You know, obviously if you can go up 3, that's nice too. But yeah, as you say, if you can give up 1, have hammer in 6 and control that's now it's up to what Team Cseke wants to do here. And this is one of those shots where there's not a lot of joy, as we say. Even if you make a great shot, you just go, well, it's not a lot of joy if we make it.
You still got to cross your fingers because Brad's got rock in hand to follow up.
Absolutely. And I think here, this is a really precise shot. So Paul wants Corey Chester to come in and put it in the top 4 to potentially be able to run it back into the 4-foot or tap it up for another point. And this is one of those ones where you pretty much got to walk it down there and put it on a dime, because otherwise you're in some big trouble if you don't get it in the exact spot that you need.
You don't see Ty jumping on this at all. So, well, now he's starting to give it a little scrub.
Yeah, it looks like it rolled more than they thought. And judging by Corey's body language, he doesn't love this one either.
A little light.
Yeah. That's 2 in a row where it's just, you know, with the way the ice is curling, at least from what we've seen in the 2 draws we've watched, Al, when the ice is curling that much, if you're light on a draw, it's going to break earlier. And once that rock hits that break point, you know, it is really difficult to keep it straight. And so that's 2 in a row for Corey. He's been struggling with draw weight today. He had 1 earlier that went through the house and just go ahead.
Sorry, John. And I also wonder if they're just getting caught a little there, because Ty didn't show an awful lot of urgency on the sweeping too. I think he felt it was okay coming out of the hand, but I think there's a spot in that ice that you talk about where it just grinds and starts moving, and it's just a matter of anticipating that spot, isn't it, as a front ender?
For sure. Yeah. And obviously the weight was pretty good out of his hand. So it is possible that it hit that break point a little early. And of course, once a rock starts to curl, it also starts to lose speed. So could be that it, you know, looked fine out of the hand, might've been exactly the weight that Corey wanted to throw and just broke early and they weren't able to manage it. But yeah, just, you know, like we say, Team Cseke had a really nice start to the game with the first 3 ends. They were kind of controlling the ends against Team Jacobs, but the last 2 ends have been all Brad Jacobs. The one thing that's really helping Team Cseke right now is that they're shot. So obviously they'd love to score more than 1 here, but at least they're not staring down this pile of rocks in the house, and Team Jacobs is the shot rock.
Not yet, anyways.
Yes, exactly. They might be momentarily. And I think it's still Team Cseke. It's
Sure,
tough
like
to
that
know with
overhead
the
shot.
Yeah,
If you can ask
exactly.
Curling Zone Galactic headquarters to.
Yeah, can we get a satellite here to shine on this house? Yeah, it's tough to say. It does look to me like it's still blue, but
I'd
pretty
agree.
close.
Yeah.
And again, it's this is a situation where that one red shot rock is looking awfully lonely in there.
This is kind of one of those scenarios where I would just like, you know what? Let's just leave them in place and let's throw one as hard as we can and see what happens.
Yeah, it looks like they're looking at potentially peeling off the guards, even though it's up for Paul's last one. The only other option I could maybe see is you play an outturn draw and try to lie too. But again, that would leave Jacob still with they're worried about. You can see the rock that Tyrell's hitting right now. They're worried about that exact shot that Brad comes down, runs that red just outside the house into the red in the top four. And that's their main concern right now. So they're trying to decide the best way to mitigate the risk from that shot. And unfortunately for them, the red angles are very good. So even if Brad doesn't make it perfectly, it's a situation where you could still see both blues spilling out of the 4-foot and creating a real bad situation for Team Cseke. So it looks like they're deciding whether or not they want to run the 3 guards, like Tyrell is saying. So his idea here is you triple those guards and you leave your blue shooter at the top to potentially run in. The other call, it looks like they're deciding between that Corey Chester's suggesting is to put a blue rock in the 8-foot to the left-hand side of the house as we're looking at it. And the idea behind that would be that if Brad does make that bang bang into the 4-foot, that Cseke would have a rock in the 8-foot that he could slash in to potentially get shot with his last one. So those seem like the 2 shots
they're worried about all the ways this end can get away in a big way from them because of the way Brad Jacobs can throw a curling stone with precision and heat.
Oh, no question. And I think anytime as a skip, if you have hammer and your first shot is putting a rock hopefully into a place where you might be able to slash it on your last one, things probably aren't going too good. So yeah, it's absolutely a case where Team Cseke is essentially assuming Brad will make this double angle run back. And Jerry just asking me about the home of Team Cseke. Team Cseke, I would guess our home is Victoria. Paul and Corey both curl out of Victoria. Myself and Jay, I curl out of Vancouver. Jay curls out of Golden Ears in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. And Tyrell curls out of Kelowna. So we're a 3-way, we're a 3-town team, but we're not gonna pull the team Cotter and make people say 3 towns. We're not gonna be Vernon, Kelowna, Kamloops. We're not going to do that. You can just say they're from Victoria. That's just fine. I think when you're skipping third or both from the same place, you have no choice but to say that that's where we're from. They're the 2 guys who make the big bucks. So I don't even know what they're doing here exactly.
I think they're playing off that red and hoping to drive it almost sideways and leave their shooter just roll their shooter but keep it in play. Okay. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of a half rock and take that red away as an option.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing they're probably playing a sort of backline shot here, and they kind of guard both sides of it because first of all, they take away the run back. They move the redstone to the left side of the house, which guards Brad's path in that way. And they spill the shooter off and potentially give themselves something to run in with Paul's last one. So I'm guessing that's what they're doing. Complicated, and also complicated by that corner guard that's in play there, but Tyrell's on it right away. It looks really tight if that's the shot that they were trying.
Oh, that moved a ton.
Yep.
Well,
they might have guarded that double run back.
Yeah.
They might have accidentally guarded that double run back.
That's not the worst leave in the world.
No, but I think it's there's an opportunity for Brad to come in and tap it. I think Brad was maybe a little frustrated with how well that worked out for Cseke. Looked like he, did the old, well, I guess we could do this, the old slamming the broom down there. But but yeah, it kind of worked out well for Team Czeke. I don't think this run is there.
Are they looking at a drag though here?
That seems to be what they're looking at. It's risky because the problem is if you play that and it doesn't drag onto that red in the top 4, then you give Czeke an open draw for 2.
I think it does drag on there. I mean, they have to hit the blue on the center line side.
Yeah.
And drag effect. I don't know if we want to get into that after talking about tolerance and breakpoint yesterday, John.
Well, we can always educate the listeners. It's I'll explain it very simply. Drag effect is essentially when 2 curling stones are frozen together because of the handles of the curling stones and the turn that they're on. If you hit them in a certain way, they will actually curl a little bit after you throw them, after the hit is made. So even though the angle we're looking at looks like that Jacob's red stone would just go past everything and miss it all because of the turn that it's on, it does look like if you hit the blue, it will actually curl into that red that's in the top 4 and move it onto that blue one in the 4-foot. So, but as we said, it's a bit of a risk because it potentially leaves the chance for Team Czeke to get 2 if it doesn't drag on to it.
But I want them to try it just to see if it's there. I'm being honest.
Me too.
Yeah. Because the drag effect is always fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
They're definitely, not that you need me to tell you this, but they're definitely looking at it.
Well, it's one of those things, if they make it, it's going to be extremely difficult for Team Czeke to score.
Yeah. 100%.
However, as we say, it also, if they miss it, gives Czeke the potential opportunity to score 2, which if they didn't even throw their rock, I think it might be hard for Czeke to score 2. So that's what they're kind of weighing is, do we want to try and end the game here? Maybe get like a steal of 2 or 3 and really put them in the rear view, knowing that the risk is that they could get back and tie the game? Or do we want to just, they could throw a guard, they could try and, maybe tap that red one up, but there's a lot of ways that they could make it so that it's almost impossible for Czeke to score more than 1.
Or they could just throw it through.
I mean, it's always an option. I think based on the way the rocks are set up, it's very difficult for Czeke to score 2 right now.
Yeah.
That's if they threw it through. So.
Well, I've heard that discussion take place on one occasion before. It didn't work out so good, but
always something you talk about as a team, right? It's weighing the tolerance, right? And what you want to do. So
for those wondering, my oblique reference to the 2009 World Men's Final, Scotland versus Canada, Kevin Martin throwing it through, thinking there's no way Scotland can score 2 here for the win, which they did after he threw it through.
Yeah, probably the most talked about it in curling history. People still talk about it when they are enjoying a few adult beverages in the lounge.
I wonder if, if where EJ's got his broom, if that's straight. You can't tell from our angle, but I wonder if you can get to the nose of that blue stone and just tap as well. If that's the other option that they're considering here.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, those are the options they seem to be weighing. Is does this drag? And it seems like they've maybe decided that it doesn't. Brad's now kind of reverting to his first call, which was to come around the whole pile and tap that red one in. But
or not.
All right, I guess we're going to see whether or not it drags.
I'm placing my money on he makes it.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes on to the blue. I think it drags onto the red. I just don't know if the red will go into the blue, but it's also impossible to say with the camera angles that we have.
Yeah, exactly.
we're trying to make an only slightly educated guess here. So, and I'm just a lead. I'm never going to pretend that I am an expert on drag effect, but certainly it appears that it is possible that this red rock will drag onto the other red rock and put it onto the blue and leave Jacob sitting 3. We'll see what happens here. Wow. Okay, interesting. It didn't really drag that much. It dragged, but not enough where it would poke that one onto onto the forefoot. So Team Czeke is still sitting 1, and now this is again the risk that we talked about, that by missing that and clearing those 2 guards out of the front of the house, they're now leaving Czeke with a chance to get in there for a deuce, either through an in-off or a draw. I think
ironically, this was the shot they attempted on Paul's first shot. Yeah, to have that in-off possibility, and now here it is.
Totally, and now here it is, exactly. So yeah, I think the draw is really tough because of the corner guard. You can't see the corner guard right now. It's underneath our chyron at the bottom of the screen here, but there is a corner guard there. So otherwise you'd figure you'd just draw in there with the out turn, no problem. But unfortunately, that guard makes that quite tough. So this is an in-off where you don't feel too much risk. It's almost impossible to hit your blue out and not still score 1. And you've got a couple red stones you can come on to get your 1, or you can just straight roll in for a second point. So big opportunity for Czeke here, to knot it at 3.
Yeah, and we talked about confidence playing a role. Boy, if he can make that shot, that would be a massive confidence boost for this team.
Oh, no question. I mean, especially an end like this, where even though they were shot pretty much from the start of the end, you feel like you get outplayed for the whole end. And if you get outplayed for the whole end and you can still manage to score 2 with hammer, you feel pretty good about it. So this is, big shot here for Paul Czeke, trying an in-off for the deuce. Not touching it yet. Looks like it's hanging, and Paul's not even looking at it.
He's turned his back on it.
Yeah. So unfortunate for Czeke not to pick up an extra point there, but a well-played end from Team Jacobs results in forcing Czeke to 1. We head into the 6th end with Jacobs up 1 with hammer. We'll be back after this.
Northern Credit Union, a true partner, sweeping you to financial victory. Visit northerncu.com and swap your bank for something better. Because Northern Credit Union isn't a bank. We're a financial institution.
The difference between a clean tractor and a dirty one can be found in the heart of the person who holds the key. Hey, Mountain. Coyote, we dig dirt.
How's that feel?
It feels good.
Yeah?
It feels real.
Are you confused?
No, I'm not.
You're okay?
I'm good.
Are you going to embrace the moose now?
I'm embracing the moose. I look good in green.
Well, you look great in green. Wow.
Excellent.
How good does he look in green?
Good to see you looking great.
Welcome back to the Ashley HomeStore Classic in Penticton, BC. Presented by New Floors Penticton, we've got Team Jacobs playing their 4th game of the tournament against Team Czeke, also playing their 4th game of the tournament. We've got Team Brad Jacobs up 3-2 with hammer, playing the 6th end, managing to force Team Czeke to 1 last end. And saw a nice clip there of last year's Brier, Mark Kennedy, wearing the green of Northern Ontario for the first time and remarking how good they look in green. And I feel like everyone looks good in green. Great color. The Northern Ontario jackets, always among some of my favorites. They have the excellent Moose logo. The fans of Northern Ontario teams love to embrace the Moose call. They wear Moose heads. They get all into it. I've learned this. I've been at a few Canadian junior championships myself. I know how intense they get. And I know for Mark Kennedy, he was super thrilled to get a chance to represent Northern Ontario last year, which we just saw in the break. I look good in green too. I feel like, I miss my calling. Maybe I should have moved to Sudbury early on in life.
With your eyes in particular, John. I mean, it brings them out.
Thank you, Al, for saying it. I wasn't going to say it, but I have heard that. I have heard that before.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere, and anybody who's been up into that part of Canada knows what great supporters they are of curling that 2018 World Women's Championship in North Bay, Ontario. Just one of the great events that's ever been staged on Canadian soil. And the honest truth is that there were a great many people at the World Curling Federation who were a tiny bit skeptical. Where is North Bay? And they got there and they had the time of their lives. It was just a terrific event. And and what the other great thing, of course, Northern Ontario fans, they travel very, very well, and they come out and support their teams across Canada.
Oh, no question about it. Like I said, I've seen that at the few Canadian juniors I've been to last year, obviously in Langley, British Columbia, and then I was at the juniors in 2013 in Fort McMurray, delivering some keynote speeches at both of those events, doing some commentary with you last year, and yeah, the Northern Ontario fans always get very into it. I was also at the Grand Slam last year in Thunder Bay. 2 years ago, I guess, doing some episodes of my podcast, Stone and Straw, and hanging out in Thunder Bay. And yeah, every draw was sold out. They had the tier 1 and tier 2 events. The crowds were pumped up for the tier 2 events as well. And yeah, it was just an awesome time, and it's a great community, and they've been really lucky to have some awesome curling teams. Obviously, Brad Jacobs been carrying the flag for Northern Ontario for some time, but we also have, of course, Tracy Fleury from there, even though she's been representing Manitoba for the last few years. Krista McCarville, of course, the fantastic Northern Ontario rep, and then we've got the young Horgan boys, Tracy's younger brothers, who are also making their way up in the curling world, Tanner and Jacob. So it's a very curling heavy part of the country. They love their curling, and we love them back. And speaking of loving things, I love that shot from Tyrell Griffith. A couple of really nice shots, actually, as Team Cseke starting this end off quite well. A bit of a disappointment with Paul Czeke's last one in the 5th end, but a nice start to this end, trying to put some pressure on Team Jacobs and maybe take the scoreboard back and get a big steal here, Al.
Just a world-class segue there too, by the way, John.
Trying my best.
Coming strong.
We have to. We have no choice. It's the Team Jacobs Facebook page. We got to come strong.
So Cseke is in good position here. You got the guards up, and obviously Jacobs has last rock advantage, but Cseke just, I think, takes some confidence out of getting that point last end. It was a tricky end to navigate because Team Jacobs was applying pressure, but I think Paul's team did withstand that pressure, and in the end did have a chance at a deuce.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it wasn't the easiest shot for 2, and like we say, Team Jacobs applied a lot of pressure, but overall, quite a good result for Cseke. Anytime you have a shot for 2 against Team Jacobs with the hammer, you're going to feel pretty good about it. Unfortunately, Corey Chester rolling out of the house there would have been nice for that to get behind the guard and lay 3. And now Jacobs has to decide if he wants to maybe peel the guards or get aggressive here. And I think we talked about this yesterday in the 6th end. If you got hammer, you just want to score, even if it's only 1 point. That's what you're hoping to get. And so that's what Jacobs is deciding what the best way to get 1 point is here as Team Cseke lays 2.
You like the peel here, John?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Again, what we said, it's, scoring in the 6th end here, especially in a game that Jacobs is starting to take control over. I don't mind it at all. I think it's neither of the Team Cseke Stones are in a great spot. I mean, it's even better when you do that. But neither of the Team Cseke Stones really in a great spot, both of them behind the tee line. So I certainly don't mind peeling there.
This is a situation right here, though, that that precision is needed. I mean, yes, make that red stone go away, but you better keep that your shooter in play. You got to be sitting 2 here in order to keep the force on. You just don't want to give Team Jacobs, a team like Team Jacobs, the chance to generate something based on a half shot miss. And we saw the rollout on the last shot, and you just don't want to take any kind of chances like that when you've got opportunities. And that.
What were you saying there, Al?
Yep.
What were you saying about
that?
We're going to give Jacobs some opportunities.
That's what called foreshadowing.
Yes, exactly. Never mind my segues. You're out here predicting the game before it happens. pretty impressive. But yeah, that's unfortunately for Corey Chester, he's been struggling the last few ends, and that's that's a really unfortunate result. Allows Jacobs to sit to not really any dangerous guards in front. And, for Team Jacobs, if they can put up a couple points here with Hammer, that's going to feel pretty good for them here in the 6th.
Trying to keep that straight. They don't want to give the jam right back.
Yeah. Close. I mean, I think that curled a little more than they thought. We've seen that on the center line all game. And as I said earlier, whenever you play on a wall sheet, it can always be a bit tricky to determine, sometimes the rocks do curl a little bit more towards the wall when you're playing that close to the wall. And we've seen that a few times now with these rocks down the center. They've curled a little more than these teams expected. And unfortunately for Cseke, there's not really a lot of options here to try and prevent a deuce. So they're going to start here. Hopefully Corey Chester can make a roll behind that rock that's in the top 12 and just go from there. But a couple unfortunate misses have really put Team Cseke behind the 8 ball here.
And there's another rollout. So just a tough run of rocks there from Corey. And now.
No question. And now it allows Jacobs to split the house and lie to with Hammer. And there's really, unless Team Cseke decides to get super aggressive, there's not too many situations here where you can envision them preventing Jacobs from getting 2.
Yeah, all you want the priority here is just basically above T line, but to keep that angle as steep as possible. Well, you don't even need to be above T line, really.
They don't need to be above T.
Just you don't want to give any kind of a chance at a double and keep the separation as much as possible.
Yeah, here you actually want to be deeper. That's what they're sweeping for, because the problem is if you leave it close to the T line, it gives them a hit and roll. So that's it's a minor miss. Obviously, it's still a pretty long roll, but it does give Team Cseke an out. Whereas if Mark Kennedy had got that into the back 12, there's really no out for Team Cseke other than freezing. So this is the one chance that they have, and this is a big shot here for Paul. If he can roll behind cover, that'll put some pressure on Team Jacobs for sure. But like we say, it's really a minor miss as far as things are considered. But they would have wanted that rock a bit deeper for sure.
In a different circumstance, they would be very upset with that shot. I think in a Brier final or an event final, that would be a disappointing outcome just for this very reason.
Yeah, no question, for sure. Yeah, the only thing with that you don't feel too bad about is that it wasn't a case of failed communication. I think those are ones that I know as being a lead, being a sweeper for a very long time, when you want to be back 8, back 12 and it's a rock mismanagement situation where it probably was there and you screw up the sweeping, that's when you can really get the team down on it. But if it's just a situation where the shooter comes up a bit light, then it's obviously unfortunate, but it doesn't maybe affect the team in the same way as just, the shot could have been made and we screwed it up. This is close, but just doesn't quite curl. And we've seen that now a couple times. It does seem like it curls maybe a little bit more towards the wall and a little bit less away from the wall. We saw that one really didn't finish at all. Paul's in off at the end of the 5th and last end didn't curl at all either. So I do wonder if it is curling a little bit more towards the wall. That does sometimes happen because it's obviously humid on the other side of the wall. So sometimes the sheet can just the rocks can naturally warp towards that. But now this is, and this is the really unfortunate part here is that not only did Cseke not make the roll, but if Jacobs makes it, then Czeke's at risk of giving up 3. And if you give up 3 here with 2 ends to play, down 4, that's a very tough comeback situation, especially against such a great team.
It's a warm day in Penticton too, so I'm sure exactly what you're talking about, John, is a factor on the other side of that wall. Our friends at Environment Canada listed as 7 degrees and sunny in Penticton right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is like you say, John, a way to generate a 3.
Yeah, exactly. If Brad can make this roll perfect, it's on the table. That's for sure.
Almost.
And now it's again another situation for Cseke where they might be able to get out of this end. The only issue for them is that obviously Jacobs has a counter in the top of the house that they would be able to run back. It does look like it's open for that. You can see Paul's original thought was actually, I think if you're looking at this or watching the game, your first thought would be, oh, well, you try to roll deep. You try and get behind that corner guard that's above the house. But if you roll deep, what that allows is it allows a slash for Team Jacobs where they can slash the rock that's at the top of the house and then roll in with their shooter to score 2. So Paul's original call was to roll, but they actually don't want to roll super deep. The ideal situation here is that you end up almost nose buried behind that one and hope that if Brad makes the nose double, that the rock that the shooter that he throws is outside of the house. So we don't have a perfect view of it. I don't know if that's possible, but based on what Paul's call was, I'm guessing that that's the way that these rocks are situated.
I think we'd agree, John. This is still cross your fingers territory for Cseke because it's the chances of Jacobs getting a deuce, regardless of the outcome of this shot, are pretty good.
Absolutely, yeah. This needs to curl. And again, we're seeing it. It's that same turn. It's the turn away from the wall. We saw it with Brad. We saw it with both the Pauls. They're just not moving. They're not getting the finish that some of those other rocks are. And this will leave Brad with an open hit for 2. And this is pretty much the dream when you're playing the 6th end to have just kind of an easy deuce. They were able to split the house early and maintain that throughout the end. And this is a chance for Team Jacobs to take a commanding 3-point lead into the 7th end.
I just have to point out, John, that no sooner do I talk about the 2009 World Men's Curling Championship, but I notice Ewan Byers, a member of that Scottish team, happens to be watching the broadcast over in Scotland. So big hello to Ewan.
Hey, Ewan. Just an easy clean all the way down. Simple nose hit for Jacobs, and that's a big 2 in the 6th end with hammer. Brad Jacobs now taking a 3-point lead over Team Cseke, 5-2. We'll be back with the 7th end right after this.
Back in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. We're not on the ice, but maybe second to that. If we can't be playing, we're going to be eating some pizza and having a few beverages, I guess. And today is International Beer and Pizza Day, officially. Didn't know it existed, but we found that out. So we thought, hey, if it's International Beer and Pizza Day, let's go have a few beverages. Let's go have some pizza. We're at East Street Pizza here in Sault Ste. Marie, one of the top pizza places in the Soo. They just so happen to also be selling Kingsville beer. I, EJ Harnan, have selected the Light A award-winning beer. Ryan, what do you have there?
I have the Hef.
The Hef cups. You got the what?
I don't have the can, but I got the Czech lager.
You get the Czech lager.
My favorite.
Nice. And you know what? We're going to have some fun. We're amateur pizza rating professionals, if that makes any sense. But we're going to rate some pizza today. Cups, you go first. You let me know what your thought is, what your score is, and why. And then Ryan will get you as well.
Yeah, I'll just be real quick and simple.
Let's go.
As soon as the box opened, I was quite impressed.
Yeah.
Nice big wheel.
Yeah.
Crust is nice and fluffy.
Fluffy crust.
Hey, and here's the thing: we're not Dave Portnoy,
No.
Barstool.
No.
We know that. We will say that we come from Sault Ste. Marie. Definitely, world renowned for pizza. East Street Pizza, obviously, This is my first time.
Me too.
Scoring?
Yeah, first time.
First time eating here as well. Yep.
Nice. I like the crust. Cheesy. Perfect amount of grease, I would say.
East Street Pizza in Sault Ste. Marie, Kingsville beer.
Welcome back to the Penticton Curling Club. I'm Al Cameron, joined by John Cullen at the Ashley HomeStore Curling Classic, presented by New Floors. And John, suddenly, after seeing that commercial, not only am I hungry, but I am thirsty. So perhaps we need some more exercise videos to keep us on task. But just while we have a couple minutes, we'll run through the scores of the other Draw 5 games here at the Penticton Curling Club on this sunny Saturday afternoon in Penticton. We do have one final to report. It is Karsten Sturmay of Edmonton, a 9-4 winner over Seb Royard of Maple Ridge. A big 3 in the 6th end for Team Sturmay to finish that game off 9-4. In the game still in progress, we have a tie game between two Victoria teams. Jason Montgomery taking on Cameron DeYoung. It is 3-3. DeYoung with hammer in the 6th. Montgomery took a deuce in the 4th, and the teams blanked the 5th. Mike McEwen, Team McEwen, up 6-3 over young Wiley Eden of Kelowna. A big deuce in the 5th end and 3 in the 3rd end are the keys there for Team McEwen. 6-3 playing the 7th end. McEwen has hammer. A real dandy going on between Glenn Howard and Tyler Tardy. Glenn Howard and Tardy in a 2-2 tie, blank in the 6th, and it is Howard with hammer in the 7th end. And in the other game, still going on, Steve Laycock with a big steal of 3 in the 5th end to take a 4-1 lead over Brendan Botcher. So that game is in the 6th end, Botcher with hammer. And a reminder, you can see Team Jacobs' final game here in Penticton tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, here on the Team Jacobs Facebook page.
Yeah, that's awesome, Al. Also remember, if you're watching, to like the Team Jacobs Facebook page and share the stream around. Obviously, with no curling on TV, this is what we have available now, and a lot of people don't know that there's so much streaming going on of these excellent games. So make sure to share it around. Let people know that you're enjoying the stream on Twitter, on your Facebook, wherever you're sharing stuff, Instagram. And speaking of sharing, Al, I would love to share a pizza with you. We did see that nice ad in the break for Kingsville Brewery. That's one of Team Jacobs' new sponsors this year. And just a reminder, you're speaking of being thirsty, Al. Kingsville Brewery is running a contest all month for Movember. Show your stout stash. There you go. You can go to the Team Brad Jacobs Instagram page. It's stout season. They're giving away free beer. They want to help Kingsville Brewery raise money for prostate cancer awareness through Movember. So all you have to do, you go to the Team Brad Jacobs Instagram. All the information is there, but it's very easy. You just have to share a photo of your beer mustache or share the Team Jacobs beer mustache photo. Use the hashtags Stout Season and Stout Stash, and make sure you're following Kingsville Brewery on Instagram, and make sure you tag them, and you can be entered to win free beer from the Kingsville Brewery, Team Jacobs' new sponsor this year. So they're all looking great there. Like I said, I particularly love Mark's both mustache combination and face tattoos. So I'm sure that's giving his wife Nicole maybe some ideas or some creeps. Who knows? Either way,
probably a nice blend of both.
Yes, exactly. But they look great, and make sure to check out Kingsville Brewery on Instagram. And now we're here in the 7th end. Team Cseke desperately trying to claw their way back into this game, and another unfortunate miss there from Corey Chester. He's had a bit of a tough afternoon here, and Team Jacobs has taken advantage. We can see Team Jacobs counting 2 stones in the forefoot, and there's only 1 corner guard in play. So this is not a great start to the 7th end for Team Cseke here, as Brad's maybe measuring up this corner guard double here for Mark. I believe it's Mark's shot.
I think this is EJ's. No, you're correct. It would be Mark. Yeah.
Mark's first. Yeah. So here we go. So this is again a sign of a team that's starting to gain some confidence. Rather than just rip the rock in the house, they're going to try and double them off with the corner guard. And if they do that, it's going to be very difficult for Team Cseke to generate any points here. And just like that, just pretty easy these days. It seems like, for these top teams with those big weight shots. So going to be tough for Cseke to generate a deuce here. And that's pretty much what they need heading into the 8th end here, Al. I think one is probably not going to do it.
No, that's a big ask, isn't it? I mean, down 3, and if you're only taking 1, down 2 without last rock, coming home against Team Jacobs. I would say Curling Zone Galactic headquarters probably has a few stats on that, and they're not too positive for the team that's down 2.
Yes, I would imagine not. Although I do appreciate you continuing to envision a Curling Zone intergalactic headquarters. It sounds like a nice place. Sounds like a place I'd like to be, just in space watching curling. This is pretty much the only option for Team Cseke here, to just try and kind of freeze to these 2 rocks here. And Corey's done a nice job there. But of course, we've seen Mark Kennedy's big weight ability, not only in this tournament, but throughout the years, as second for Team Martin and then third for Team Cooey and now Team Jacobs. So the object here is just to make them all go away. And if Mark's able to do that, then Team Cseke is going to have to decide if they want to be down 3 playing 8 with hammer, or down 2 playing 8 without.
Either one of them's optimal.
Yeah, neither one's good. They're both suboptimal, that's for sure. Mark doesn't quite get them all, but does get the offending blue out of the house. But, maybe a little glimmer of hope here for Team Cseke. Those rocks are staggered. So if Corey Chester can come down here and just move this red slightly and sit right there, it might present a bit of a challenge for Brad.
That's an interesting scenario there, too. That's where a lot of curling fans would look at that shot and say, oh, good, he kept his red rocks there and took out the blue. But I can tell you, I think Team Jacobs would have been much more pleased to get rid of those red rocks. Keep everything. Yeah,
even one of them. Out. Even one of them, freezing to 1 rock is almost impossible to do these days, to freeze where it ends up in a situation where your opposition can't get it out. So yeah, even to just get rid of one of those 2 back reds would have been the ideal situation. Looks like Corey's got a really nice shot there. So again, it is movable for Jacobs, of course. And like we say, ideally he'll probably want to get at least one of these reds out of the house, but nice shot from Corey. But it is with the weight that Brad can throw this. I don't know that this rock is going to be long for the world.
Yeah, that's the thing. Corey couldn't have made it any better.
Yeah,
and even then, you see Mark doing a little housekeeping just to clear the path for that stone as it's going to go. That was the path it's going to go, is just about straight sideways, assuming Brad hits the broom, and I like the chances of that happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's just, that's what happens when you when you can't keep guards in play early in the end and you're forced to bring the play into the house. As we say, with the big weight ability that these top teams have now, there's very few places to hide if you don't have guards out in front of the house, and we're probably going to see an example of that right here from Brad. Throwing some steam here.
Yep.
That's
straight sideways.
Exact way you want to do it. Yeah. And now there's only a single rock for Team Cseke to freeze to. Of course, they'll try to do that, but that's about the only option they have now. And it's not easy. You pretty much have to, it looks like they maybe are just going to hit and accept their fate. Yeah, because the risk you run here, this is the decision, right? So what happens is, the reason they're hitting this is because they've decided that they want to try and blank and be down 3 with hammer heading into 8, which is probably the right decision. If you were to try to freeze here, you might get really lucky, make a perfect freeze, or maybe get a miss out of Brad with your last one and get 2. But the problem is, if you miss the freeze, then Brad is able to force you to 1. And if Brad forces you to 1, then you're down 2 without hammer. And as you say, Curling Zone Intergalactic HQ would probably inform us that that's a bad spot to be. So this is just Team Cseke making their decision 1 rock early, that they want the blank here and to keep the hammer into the last end. And so Paul Cseke will just hit this rock, and Jacobs will hit it back, and they'll try to blank it.
I think we're probably safe going to commercial right now, John. I think we know how this is going to play out.
Let's run the whole gamut of ads we have. How many more workouts of Mark Kennedy's do we have that we can get up here?
There's never enough. There's never enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Certainly not for me. That's for sure. This pandemic has not been kind to my waistline. That's for sure. So here we go. We've got the blank for Paul Cseke here, and still not an ideal scenario, but down 3 with hammer. There is at least a glimmer of light. The door is not completely shut. If they can get a couple misses out of Team Jacobs and have a solid 8th end, there is the possibility for 3. And as we know, Al, with the 5 rock rule, it's certainly, we've seen a lot more 3s and 4s in the past few years than we have previously, especially in a lead defense situation like this. So Team Cseke is, they're not completely out of the game. Obviously, we would favor Jacobs being up 3 heading into 8, but they're, there's always hope. There's always the chance. So Paul makes the blank, no problem, and that's the situation we're going to find ourselves in when we come back from break. It's Team Jacobs up 5-2 without hammer, playing the 8th end here in Penticton.
Northern Credit Union, a true partner, sweeping you to financial victory. Visit northerncu.com and swap your bank for something better. Because Northern Credit Union isn't a bank. We're a financial institution.
The difference between a clean tractor and a dirty one can be found in the heart of the person who holds the key. Hey, Mountain. Coyote, we dig dirt.
It's a beautiful fall day. It's stout season. What better way to celebrate than with a Kingsville barrel-aged stout? Now, I know some of you are going to say, stouts? I don't do the stouts. They're too heavy, man. And those barrel-aged beers, they scare me. They're too boozy, or they're too woody. Well, we heard you, so check this out. What we've got here is a medium-bodied, well-balanced, but most importantly, very approachable option for you. Look at that color. Deep, rich, dark color. The aroma is malty. It's roasty. You get a little coffee there. And the flavor, you get that roastiness, little coffee, little cocoa, and the whiskey undertones, little oak, little vanilla. So don't be afraid to try it. Cheers, and happy International Stout Day.
Welcome back to Penticton, British Columbia. We're here at the Penticton Curling Club for the Ashley HomeStore Classic presented by New Floors Penticton. We're here at the 8th end of this game between 1-2 Team Jacobs and 2-1 Team Cseke. As you can see from the beautiful score bar at the bottom of the screen, Team Jacobs is leading 5-2 without hammer. So this is a situation where Team Cseke will be trying to get as many rocks in play as they possibly can to try and generate a 3 here on the back of Team Jacobs. Unfortunately, Tyrell Griffith has put his first one in the house, and that's going to make that task of getting 3 just a little bit tougher.
That's a problem. I will say that's a problem. And people say, well, this is a lost cause. Well, it's definitely more of a lost cause now, but I mean, it happens. 2001 Olympic trials, one of the most famous 4-enders in curling history is Glenn Howard or John Morris up 3 against Glenn Howard playing the 10th end of a round robin game. And Glenn Howard scores 4 in the 10th for a win. And that was 3 rock rule. So
exactly,
it can happen.
Yeah, and the one nice part about the 5 rock rule is that if Tyrell gets this one above the house, then he'll be in a good spot, or not in a good spot, but Jacobs can't hit it. So they'll at least have one guard out front of the house for at least 1 rock. So that helps. But yeah, certainly coming in the house with the first is unlucky. Tyrell's had a great game. That was really the only one of the few missteps he's had all game. So that's a tough one, but it'll just be on Team Cseke to make the rest of their shots and hope that they get a miss or 2 from Team Jacobs. Though it has to be said that since the second half of the game, Team Jacobs really has exercised control. Team Cseke had a really nice start, and you know, conversely, their wheels have fallen off a little bit, and Team Jacobs has been gaining steam throughout the game. They've had a really nice back half of the game, Al.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it translates into execution. It translates into confidence of knowing where to put the broom. Brad has iced his guys very, very well. And it just translates into the way they carry themselves on the ice, right? I mean, all of that stuff is a byproduct of confidence. And it's a byproduct of making shots. And when you compare their state of mind in the eighth end of this second game, that appears to be a win compared to when they stepped off the ice after their loss to Team Howard yesterday, the second game of the day. I think it's, you know, it's 180 degrees different. And the Saturday night meal is going to taste an awful lot better, I think, obviously, for Team Jacobs.
Yeah, no question. Well, and you know, this was a must-win game for them in a pool situation like this with the top 8 teams making the playoffs. You can't afford 3 losses, so a loss would have been devastating, would have made the meal taste real bad. But I do agree that having the team come together in this game, make a lot of those key shots, will certainly give them some confidence heading into tomorrow. And they do have one more round robin game tomorrow morning. They'll also be broadcast live here on the Team Jacobs Facebook. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Team Jacobs will be finishing up their round robin schedule against Cameron DeYoung, also from Victoria. And Paul Cseke will be finishing up his round robin schedule at the same time against Glenn Howard from Penticton, Ontario. So, you know, obviously these are 2 teams. They'll be at 2-2. They'll be kind of having an eye on each other tomorrow. And Glenn Howard will be seeking a 5-0 if he beats Tardy. And obviously for Cseke, they'll be wanting to make sure they get that 3rd win and get themselves into a tiebreaker scenario. So big games tomorrow morning. Make sure you tune in on Team Jacobs Facebook, like the page right now so you get notified whenever we go live. Share it around, let your friends know that there's a lot of great curling streaming happening right now for a lot of these teams. It's been a really cool development led by Curling Zone. If you go to curlingzone.com, you can actually see a little red play icon beside the games that you can live stream. And so you can actually just go to Curling Zone, decide which game you want to watch, find one that's being streamed and go watch it. It's a pretty cool situation right now.
Ain't technology great?
It's beautiful. Yeah. So Team Cseke now getting to this stage where they just need an outright miss from Brad Jacobs. They've got 1 in the house. They need to score 3. With only 3 rocks to come. So they can guard one more time if they want before they have to come in the house, or they can come in the house now.
The math is not looking good.
The math isn't great. I'm not that great at math, but even
you're
this
a teacher.
Yeah, but I teach English.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt, man.
I appreciate that. But no, this is all I was saying is it's math that's simple enough that even I can do it.
Nicely done.
That's really the case. But yeah, this is, you know, it looks like they're going to try and draw around this one, use the one in the top of the house as a guard. Just try and give Team Jacobs a little bit of a different look here. But depending on where this ends up, this could be it.
I think they're giving them a look at a double.
Yeah. And if Team Jacobs makes this, then I do believe that is the end of the game. Team Cseke still has 3 rocks remaining. So if they make this double, then Team Cseke will have to make the remaining 3 rocks count.
And get 3 misses.
Well, yes, of course. 2 misses. They only need 2 misses, Al.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
But yeah, it's not looking good for Team Cseke here. That's for sure. Nice shot from Mark Kennedy. Unfortunately, he does leave it in play, so he gives Team Cseke a little bit of a guard here. So, you know, they'll just try and bury this one around it as best as they can. And then we'll see what Team Jacobs is left with.
And we have noticed, haven't we, John, that this is if they want to bury, this is not the side they want to be throwing to either. It's been, it definitely is not, and we're seeing that here, that's going to take something special to bury.
Yeah, it's taken a while. It should finish a little harder. It is towards the wall, so it should have some finish, but it does have to stay in the house. That's really their main issue, and it does. That's actually pretty
Whoa,
much a
that
perfect
you
shot.
could not play that any better.
Perfect shot. Yeah, it's not so much the turn, it's just whether it's curling towards the wall or away from the wall. So that one was curling towards the wall, so that helps. But yeah, we've got obviously Jacobs with a run back here. And of course, if he misses it, he's not going to be too concerned because he'll have an open hit with his last to ensure the win. But obviously would be nice to win it here if he can. And to win it on a 10-foot run back is always a nice feeling, that's for sure.
Well, there's one miss.
Yeah, they got one. Now they just need Brad to miss an open hit on his last one. But yeah, Paul Cseke now will just try and draw another one into the house. Jacobs is guaranteed at worst a tie and hammer in the extra end. So that's good. But I mean, Brad will have an open hit with his last. And just while Paul's getting ready to throw this shot, obviously Team Jacobs wants to thank all their sponsors. You've seen some great messages from them throughout the show. Coyote Farm Equipment, Northern Credit Union, Nobis Jackets, and Kingsville Brewery. And again, make sure to check out Kingsville Brewery on Facebook, on Instagram, or Team Brad Jacobs on Instagram. You can win free beer. I won't go through all the ways in which you can do it, but that's all you need to know. That should be all I have to say. You can win free
Suddenly
beer.
I'm paying attention.
Exactly. Follow Team Brad Jacobs, not only on Facebook, but on Instagram for information on how you can win some of that sweet Kingsville Brewery beer. And here comes Paul Cseke with his second to last shot of the game, or last if Brad makes his. Just trying to draw into the house here and force Brad to make a hit with his last one. Tyrell's on this. It looks like it might be a little light. And that'll do it.
Yeah, that split's not there.
No, it's not there. It curled a little bit, broke a little early, didn't quite make it to the house, and that'll do it. That's a final. Team Brad Jacobs defeats Team Paul Cseke 5-2. That drops Team Cseke to 2-2 and improves Team Jacobs to 2-2. Both teams will be looking for that elusive third win tomorrow. Remember, tune in again tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time for the final game for Team Brad Jacobs here from Penticton. It'll be them versus Cameron DeYoung from Victoria. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the Team Brad Jacobs Facebook. Make sure to like it, share it around. We'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm John. That's been Al. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a wonderful Saturday evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye.
Northern Credit Union, a true partner, sweeping you to financial victory. Visit northerncu.com and swap your bank for something better. Because Northern Credit Union isn't a bank. We're a financial institution.
At Coyote, we know that when the weekend rolls around, you have two choices. Kick up your feet or kick up some dirt. If only all decisions could be so easy. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Good morning, everyone. Beautiful morning here in Sault Ste. Marie. The sun is just coming up over the trees. It's about 7 a.m. Tell you a little bit about our morning so far. Our daughter came upstairs as she normally does, bright and early, just after 6 a.m. Woke us up, and I looked out at the lake, and there's not too many opportunities where you wake up and it's this calm out here and this beautiful. So decided to hop in the kayak for a little kayak ride after having a couple glasses of water, as I usually do, and grabbed a coffee, and just out on the lake getting some exercise in here. A few of the things that we've been doing as a family lately, doing lots of bike rides up and down the road, keeping our social distance from anyone else who's doing the same. Jogging, running, A lot of people are starting to get out a little bit more, and I'm rightfully so. This weather's just so gorgeous. It's a little chilly, a little crisp this morning, but nonetheless, it's beautiful. So I hope everybody's staying healthy, staying safe. Remember to get some exercise in, get some aerobic exercise, maybe some anaerobic exercise. I'll probably, put this video down and do a little bit of sprinting out here on the kayak just to get that heart rate up and get the day going right. So hope you guys are doing well and enjoying some of these videos from our team. Take care.
Okay, week 4, day 1. Today is a full.
Coyote may not be a household name, but we are a land name, and a work name, and a family name. And those are all the names we'll ever need. Coyote, we dig dirt.